I tilted the whole screen. And yet the guy's still being drug uphill. Not one of those guys in the comment section has mentioned one thing about that. Nothing.
Yeah, like we're talking about the comments made underneath the videos. We have people that are losing their mind because there's no way they can defend themselves. They see we have an expert on board for vacuum. They think that he disagrees with my theory on that stuff. It's not a theory, it's a fact. There's going to be no moisture on a flag, and that flag is definitely wet. And when I asked Bill about the color, would the vacuum off-gas the color? He said colors are made of metals, so most likely will have an effect on them, but it won't take that color right out of there. Of course, radiation is going to bleach the crap out of them anything, even in space, because they've identified that already on the ISS. The color came right off from the highly ionized environment, right? And Bill is not a software anything. He's a scientist. He's a physicist. He knows the math. He understands vacuum chambers at a level that these people simply don't. And when he says that things happen that you would not expect because of a vacuum, the vacuum has an effect on man-made materials, and he said you can be surprised at the effect that has happened to the material in a vacuum. And that's why it's so creative, because now they can make new materials in a vacuum, and that's the type of work he's doing. The basis of these people, I mean, like, I own these people now. They are obsessed with me. I'm in their heads. There's no way they're going to clear that out of there. I want these people to understand I live in your heads. And you put it there, and there's nothing you can do to take it out. The only thing you could do is walk away. If you want to try and attack me, you've had plenty of time. You have absolutely nothing. You can try and discredit me all you want. The people that are educated understand what I'm talking about. That's why they're on board with us. That's why we have Bill on board with us, because he understands the level of vacuum, and he understands the technology it takes to put somebody into space, or even putting an unmanned craft into space. You can sit there and come up with all of your theories and try and discredit people. You can try and discredit Bill. You can try and discredit Marcus. We'll keep your comments underneath the videos because we want to show what complete idiots you really are.
Yeah, keeping the comments under the videos over on Shill Stompers. Those guys can say anything they want. They're not going to be blocked over there. That's what that channel's for. Anything you guys want to say, you can go over there. And yes, Crewy, Scott lives in your head. So do I. And by the way, that goes for Phase 52, that goes for Cleric, that goes for Bertie, that goes for Brian Pop Robson.
We got them all. The fact of the matter is if these people wanted to do research, instead of attacking us, show us in detail how it was done. Every step of the way. From the construction, the materials, how they protected against vacuum, thermal, radiation, highly ionized, everything, from launch to splashdown. Show us every step of the way and how it actually worked. Show us how the spacesuits worked. Show us how the equipment worked. Show us how the batteries work. Show us how the communications work. You show us that it can work. You got a job cut out for you, go and do it. NASA can't do that, but you guys claim you can, you go ahead and try it. They don't stop, and the reason they don't stop is because they don't understand that they don't understand. They won't even understand that statement. They don't understand what they don't understand.
Well, the physics teachers, the physics professors, most of these guys have never worked with vacuum chambers of that magnitude. And here these clowns like Crewy, Phase, Cleric, Matt Kent, the rest of the Mysterial Mystery, all these guys can do is come and attack. But that's it. They do not offer anything other than just to sit and attack over on Shill Stompers. But that's the place for them. Let them. They can say whatever they want over there. But they still have no idea what they're really talking about because they've never worked with it. Bill, on the other hand, works with it every day. So, who are you going to trust? Are you going to trust a pack of shills or a pack of clowns that have nothing to do with anything, and that's all you have to do? That's all you have to say. You've never worked with a vacuum chamber. None of you have. So why don't you go out and build your own vacuum chamber, spend a couple $100,000 on pumps and equipment and tubes and everything else that you need. Oh, and by the way, make sure that you get a whole pile of those metal gaskets, because every time you unscrew it, you're going to have to change it. And then you're telling us that these spacesuits worked with rubber gaskets in them. I don't think so.
Where the pressure is forcing it away from the seal. Even in Bill's vacuum chamber, it's bolted down with that, and the pressure that's against it, the outside atmosphere is going to be pushing the two materials against that seal. It's going to push that collar together because the vacuum's on the inside. In a spacesuit, it's on the other side, and it's pushing away, and they put it together with nothing more than little tongues that you see on a door lock.
Yeah, but look at the walls. Look at how thick the walls are in the chamber. Now, you're telling me that these Apollo spacesuits, which had no structure in them whatsoever, are going to hold back that 3 to 5 psi that is in them. That air is going to want to escape, and escape fast. And the very first place it's going through, the zippers. Even if they claim that they have rubber that comes back over and seals it once they zip it up, that rubber is going to outgas. So it's going to be of no use whatsoever. And this is what they're saying over on Shill Stompers. Well, you know that the rubber comes over it and it seals the zipper. Yeah, well, fine. But then the rubber's going to outgas at vacuum levels like that are found on the moon. So you still lose. You still can't come up with anything better than that. Why don't you guys try and put metal seals on there? Like clamp metal seals into those zippers, and then maybe we'll believe you. But until then, it's not going to happen. Rubber outgasses in a vacuum of that magnitude. Simple as that.
You do realize that when Bill was talking about the vacuum chamber itself and the structure of it, and he is going to be doing videos up to show all of the stuff on how to build a vacuum chamber, it's the total surface area that is being affected. The force is being affected by the total surface area. So if he was to make the vacuum chamber that you've been showing on there, if you were to make it larger, those walls are going to be a whole lot thicker again. Don't increase the amount of vacuum, just make the chamber larger and see how much more structure has to be there. And when they're talking about other vacuum chambers that can pull down farther, they're down in little wee tiny tubes. Like the diameter of it is much bigger than a pencil or whatever, right, to do it, because they have to keep the surface area down to pull that kind of vacuum. And then, of course, it's so small, you can't work in or within it. So the level of vacuum that they're working with, for the size of the chamber they're working with, at least they can do tests of certain materials in there.
But now these guys are claiming that Bill is not a software developer, engineer, whatever. Well, we never said he was. He works with the software because that's how you design the circuitry for an integrated circuit. That's
They obviously haven't watched his videos, number one. And number two, they don't listen to anything he's said in our videos.
Bill was working with semiconductor manufacturing. That's exactly what I said in that first video. And not only does he do that, but he tests the materials.
He tests and he develops materials. And most of it's for electronics. But still, you have to understand what a vacuum can do to a particular man-made material. And he said, you can be surprised. You think this is going to happen and something else happens. Well, that gives you the ability to create new materials when you understand how to work with what's happening within the chamber. Right?
I mean, as far as Cornelius Crew and Phase 52 and all the rest of the BERTIE Bunch are concerned, it wouldn't surprise me if they said that you put the film in the vacuum chamber, the emulsion outgasses and it turns back into the cow that it came from. Because some of the comments that are in here are so absurd that it's beyond ridiculousness.
That's right. Bill has described to me, when I've been chatting to him just in regular conversations, about the effects that the vacuum will have on there. And because the emulsion is trapped, even though it's a very thin emulsion, it's trapped between layers of plastic film or mylar, estar, whatever, it's all the same polymer. And especially a color film where you have 3 layers of it in there. He said it's going to try and pull it apart. It's going to bubble up. If it gets a little split in it, then it's going to outgas that material on it. If it holds, it'll actually bubble up.
Yeah, but that's just a theory.
That's his theory on what you'll be seeing in the vacuum chamber.
But he said that. He said, that's my theory.
Right.
He didn't say it was going to happen.
No, he didn't say it's going to happen. That's his theory, and that's based on his experience in there. And of course, now it could off-gas right through the lattice work of the polymer. Yep. And then you wouldn't have an effect that you would see. But over time, if the lattice work of that polymer is breaking down, it's going to look just like Joyce Deaver's mylar. It'll just pull it right back. And I said, well, they're exactly the same material, so you should expect the same result. That film, you would leave it in there, and it's going to look just like that mylar because it's exactly the same material, except the film is a whole lot thinner, especially a color film. Those layers of that plastic in there is just going to disintegrate. It's going to outgas.
Well, it's going to be interesting to see what happens because those films are bonded between the emulsions. So that means there's 3 layers, which means that the emulsion outgasses it. You would think that the sealant that they're using to seal those layers together would start to come apart.
As soon as there's a rip in it, it's not going to bubble up.
But as soon as they punch sprocket holes in them, guess what happens?
Exactly.
If it's going to outgas, it's going to outgas through those sprocket holes.
But you're going to be able to see the effect. We might have to get an X-ray it to see where the traces are going through the film. We should be able to see it under lighting. We should be able to see where the traces, where the emulsion outgassed through, right? So one of the reasons why I asked him about the color on the flag is because the color on a color film is still made out of those same metals, right? Yeah. So the color's going to remain there, but the emulsion will no longer be a liquid. So it's a very thin emulsion, as in fluid enough form that when you take a picture that it can capture the image, right?
Oh, can you imagine what would happen to a Polaroid? Because the chemicals are inside of that film. That would be the end of it. And yet, what's his name there left a Polaroid sitting on the moon. I should send Bill a Polaroid picture just to throw in there too, just to see, because if it's ruined, then there goes the picture left on the moon of his family.
It's nice that you keep shill stompers for a nice little pond for the catfish. Of course, when you get a catfish and you got it reeled in, just throw it on the bank and wait for it to expire.
Yeah, I know, that is a good name for them all, because not one of them will come on to face you. Not one of them will do any of that. Every time they get invited on, they vanish into thin air. Oh, it can't work. Oh, my computer doesn't work today, or my camera doesn't work, or I don't have a camera. That's what you get.
We need to put a pond in with mirrors underwater so they can admire themselves.
That's what you get. Get.